If you're an author or plan to be one, get excited because this podcast is for you. Book Marketing Mentors is the only podcast dedicated to helping you successfully market and sell your book. If you're ready for empowering conversations with successful marketing mavens, then grab a coffee or tea and listen in to your host, international best-selling author Susan Friedman.
Listeners, I'm excited to share some good news. Podcast Connections is our brand new episode sponsor. If you feel your book deserves more reach but visibility hasn't come easily, podcast guesting can open the right doors. The team at Podcast Connections gets you in front of the audiences who need your message and your expertise. If podcast guesting is something you're interested in, please contact them at podcastconnections.co and tell them you heard about them on the Book Marketing Mentors podcast. And now, let's get on with the show. Welcome to Book Marketing Mentors, the weekly podcast where you learn proven strategies, tools, ideas, and tips from the masters. Every week, I introduce you to a marketing master who will share their expertise to help you market and sell more books. What if legal wasn't something you avoided, but something that helped you grow your business? Today's special guest, Alyssa Hecker, believes exactly that. Working at the intersection of law, business, and creativity, Alyssa serves as general counsel to entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and creatives across the U.S. She helps them approach legal decisions with clarity, strategy, and a focus on long-term success. Her philosophy is simple. Legal should help you make money and build better relationships. Alyssa, it's an absolute pleasure to welcome you to the show, and thank you for being this week's guest expert and mentor.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you. That was a lovely introduction. And yes, everybody should have a lawyer who's a friend.
I think when they think of lawyers, it's like,
Yes, you never want to be on the defensive. You always want to plan ahead. Like a good marketing strategy, you want to have your legal strategy.
I love it. And I know that you work a lot with authors, especially nonfiction authors. So you're a perfect guest, and especially a subject that I really want us to dig deep into. And that is the whole idea of AI and publishing. Because as we know, AI is showing up everywhere in publishing. And from your perspective, what are authors getting wrong when it comes to the legal side of using AI?
That is a phenomenal question. And I'd like to say, answer like a lawyer, it depends. The biggest one is if an author uses like a generative AI to help actually write. Anything created through AI currently in the United States, according to the Copyright Office, which has studied this, anything generated by prompts in the United States is not protectable by copyright. So if you write something by prompting, no matter how in-depth the prompts become, you're really not doing the writing. You can't protect that and you can't register with the Copyright Office. With that being said, especially for nonfiction, AI is phenomenal. Again, I'll use that word. It's incredible as an organizer, as a virtual assistant in a lot of ways, as a way to help you with your outline, as a way to help you streamline the process operationally, as long as it's not doing the actual writing. And there are also a lot of things I know you and I were discussing a little bit earlier. Generative AI, which are the large language learning models, everything that you put in as input can become someone else's output. That's why we're advising people not to put in your tax returns, your medical records, your credit card information, or what you're writing, because these models are taking and scraping from everything that's put in, and your particular writing style can come out as someone else's. You want to think about that kind of thing.
That's scary. Whatever you put in, as you say, it's open to the world.
Yes.
If an author decides to use AI, let's say to help, to write, to edit, as you mentioned before, who actually owns the content?
It depends. Spell check is an AI program. Grammarly, these are AI programs. And that is absolutely fine to use when you're talking about editing, the basic things like that. What I'm saying is you put in prompts. I have two star-crossed lovers and their families don't want them to be together. Write a scene, or getting further in. As long as you're doing your own writing, AI can help you with idea generation because ideas are also not protectable by copyright. It's the expression of the ideas that is. You can help get ideas generated from AI, which is fine. But again, it's taking from all of the ideas that it has already scraped. So it's probably not going to be a very original one if you really want to come out with something that's original. Again, with nonfiction, that's a little bit different than fiction because usually in nonfiction, you have an idea of a subject, whether it's history, whether it's crime, whether it's a biography, whether it's an autobiography. So you already have a lot of the materials and ideas in front of you. You can use AI to help you organize that.
When it comes, though, to copyright, how do you even think about where is AI involved? Especially as you mentioned earlier, that it's been trained on other people's work. I mean, is anything that you write there copyright?
Let's start at the very beginning of what is copyright protection. In the United States, you can get copyright over your work as long as it's an original work that's fixed in a tangible medium. Across the board, that's the basis for our copyright. So if you've written a manuscript, for example, but you haven't published it, it hasn't been sold to the world or anything, you can still get copyright registration, get a copyright registration for that. If you submit it to the Copyright Office as an unpublished work, you could still have protection over that. And then once it's published, you can also submit it as a published work. There's different coverage in terms of the term of copyright, depending on whether it's unpublished or published. But if you are writing things and you start putting them into these open large language models, it's not like a closed system that only you have on your computer and it's not accessible to the world. There is a chance that what you're putting in comes out as someone else's product. You can't really protect that because who do you go after? There are a lot of lawsuits right now going on in the entertainment and the book publishing industries with a lot of these models. Some are more successful than others, but there are also some licensing models that are turning up. I know the Authors Guild is working with one particular AI company that is working on a licensing deal, and they're hoping that this is going to perhaps be, we'd love to have some legislation to help, but it's going to be a long time. So a lot of the industries are trying to figure out how to do it themselves.
Well, that's dangerous, isn't it?
Sometimes we need the industry push as well as the lawsuits to help a somewhat mostly inactive Congress to do its job. We're trying to get it from all angles.
Yes, there are cases, they're going to be the first that have ever been tried with regard to AI because it is so new and it's the Wild West. People are using it. It doesn't matter, but then, in fact,
and also, by the way, just to say, in India, there was recently a decision by the country of India, the Indian Copyright Board, that you can register an AI-created artwork that the United States Copyright Office would not register. So I'm talking really just the United States laws at this point in terms of copyright. There are other countries around the world that are recognizing it slightly differently.
Maybe we should go to India or one of the other countries to have our stuff copyright.
Well, you can absolutely register. And the United States is part of a convention of countries all over the world that if it's protected in one, it can be protected in another. With that being said, it can still be registered in India, but will not be recognized as protectable here. So if you try to enforce it here, you will be unsuccessful because of our laws.
Let's talk more and go into more depth with this whole idea of copyright. Can you actually copyright a whole piece of work, or is it just the title or a method that you use within the book? Talk to us more about what you can and what you can't do.
I'm glad you said that. So copyright does not extend to ideas, procedures, processes, systems, methods of operation, concepts, and principles, and also discoveries. Like these are not covered by copyright. One of the examples that's going to date me, but you can't copyright a phone book because it's just a list of names. Like there's no originality, there's no creativity kind of thing. But you can, as I was saying earlier, like you have an idea of star-crossed lovers. You can't protect that idea, but you can protect an original, tangible expression of that idea. Whatever you create in terms of writing a book, as long as it's original, you have it in some tangible form of expression, which would be your computer, printed out, whatever it is, that can be protectable.
Okay. In many times with a nonfiction book, people are using their own experience, whether it's a method or just their experience overall that they want to share with the world, especially obviously in a memoir. But are you saying that could or could not be copyright?
That's a very good question, because the way it's expressed in the book is protectable. If you just have a process that you use in the outside world, that's not necessarily protectable. But the expression of that process could be as part of the book.
Now, how does this intersect with, let's say, a trademark?
Oh, very good question. So you have different bundles of rights in your intellectual property. The ones that are most prominent are copyright, trademark, patent, and often trade secrets are hanging on in there. Patent is a lot of discoveries, a lot of systems, a lot of things, mechanical, chemical, which is what we're not going to cover here. Trademarks are your brand or your marks for your brand. It's the source identifier. So if I'm a consumer and I see like a Nike swoosh, for example, I know what's coming from that is going to be sportswear, athleisure, potentially branding with balls and sports equipment and other things like that. That's your source identifier that identifies your goods. You cannot, incidentally, get a trademark for the title of a book. You can, however, get a trademark for a book series, like the Harry Potter series. Once you have more than one book, if it's a series, you can actually get a trademark for it. A copyright, on the other hand, protects the works themselves. So what you're trying to brand with your trademark is really everything that you have written or the images or the content that you're putting out. You want to protect that with your brand, but the content itself can be protected by copyright. And very often, if you have a trademark that's a logo, that can be protected both as a trademark and a copyright because the logo is a visual art, which is protectable by copyright, as long as it's not created by AI.
Oh, that's interesting.
To go back to the other stuff. Trademark is less a problem with AI as copyright is, but a trademark logo that is created by AI has a lot less oomph behind it because it's hard to protect something if everybody else can use it anyway.
Okay. Even though AI has generated something so-called original, you can't copyright that or trademark that. Is that what you're saying?
You cannot copyright that. You can potentially trademark that. It will not extend the protection as far as you would like it to be as if it was an original work.
Okay. Let's talk about the business side. Should authors be disclosing their use of AI in publishing agreements or in collaborations or client work? How does that come in? How does that play in?
That's a great question as well. The Authors Guild, which I keep mentioning because it is the representative guild for authors in the United States, has really been doing a lot of work in this and has come out with some wonderful language that I'll send to you so you could put it in your resources to your listeners. Language that an author can have inserted into a publishing contract, self-publishing, hybrid publishing, or traditional publishing, that says that the publisher will not use the manuscript or anything related to it for the large language learning models for AI to be trained on. And therefore, the author's voice and words and originality will not become fodder for this churn that's going out there. On the other side, I've been putting in my publishing company agreements, and I've seen it in a lot of agreements in general in the entertainment industry, where a producer or a publisher will hire someone to write something or create something. And the language in there includes not only are you representing and warranting that what you're creating is new and original and doesn't violate any third-party rights or copyrights, but that it's also not AI generated, because the one who's commissioning the work needs to know that it can be protected and that it's not just coming off AI and therefore nothing's there.
Is there a way to check whether it's come off of AI?
Sometimes you can look at things now and see. I mean, I don't know if you're on any lists for consultants, for example, but every day my inbox is flooded with emails from consultants who are fabulous at what they do, but very often they use AI to do their generative email kind of sharing what I'm thinking about today. And they all have the same cadence. AI very often, I know ChatGPT often does things in threes. You can see often, I know a lot of professors and teachers have tools that can help them look if their students' papers are done. I know there's technology out there that can help detect. I can't necessarily recommend one or the other. And I also know that as quickly as that's happening, AI is getting trained to be smarter to figure out how to avoid that the next round has to come around. So very long answer to a short question. Yes, there are tools, but I'm not sure which ones are good and not.
Yes. It's interesting to see the patterns. And as you said, there are patterns that ChatGPT comes out with all the time, the same. Those threes. I mean, it drives me crazy when I see that every single time. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, don't write like that.
Right. It's okay if you want to be like the consultant or the business person who wants to use AI to help. If you have to put out content every day and you don't care as much about protecting those individual things, but you have specific messages you want to get out, ChatGPT is fantastic for that because it can really help you organize your thoughts and write those things quickly. What you should do, though, especially if you're an author, is make sure to look at those and put them in your voice. Really, anytime you use a generative AI, make sure you check it, especially if you're a nonfiction author and you're using it for any particular person, because there are hallucinations and you want to make sure that what is being kicked back is accurate. And also to put it in your own voice. And again, I'm not suggesting you use this to write your manuscript, but if you do happen to have a manuscript and you're also speaking and you're on the circuit and you want to send out emails, you can use it for your emails. You can use it for your MailChimp stuff, however else you get out your message for your Instagram, but just know that it's not protectable. But it's okay to use for business. I mean, that stuff is really helpful.
What about an author's credibility or even their brand if they rely too heavily on AI with, let's say, not thinking it through sufficiently, like you mentioned?
It depends on how much the author relies on their credibility. And I've seen this with music and I've seen this with writing. If it's an author who just wants to get out there and make as many generic sales or have certain kind of numbers, some people are just about the number generation, then they don't care. If you're an author who really cares about your reputation and your craft, write. Don't use AI to write for you. It is your reputation. And a lot of these authors are actually, some are more successful than others, but a lot of them are plaintiffs in some of these big lawsuits. And they're able to show all the years of writing that they've done, how distinctive is their style and how they do things. And it may be that that's what makes a difference because the generative AI machines are creating other ways of writing in those styles for other authors. And is that copying? Is it not? But I think if I was going to advise an author who cares about a reputation, to stick with what you do best, and that's write. And don't rely on this machine to write for you.
Mm.
And also, just to say, and a lot of people are worried that AI is going to take over all of these jobs. AI is definitely helping to eliminate a lot of creative jobs. But if all of the creative jobs are gone, AI only has itself to recirculate all it. So no new ideas will be coming back. No new books are going to be written. It's all going to be a recirculation of what's there. So there'll be no new creativity. What I feel is that that's not going to happen because you can only have so much of the same and people are just going to get sick of that.
I love that approach.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right.
Plus, it also eats up, it's got crazy environmental side effects, which is not a good thing for our world.
No, definitely not. Let's bring it back to something actionable. So if you could give authors a simple guideline when it comes to using AI in their writing or publishing process, what would that be?
I would say use AI as an office assistant. Use AI to help organize your thoughts. Use AI to help figure out, really organizing operationally, because your book is also your business. So I would say AI is great with business tasks. Never put anything into an open shared model that is proprietary to you, that you don't want to have shared with the rest of the world. We used to say, don't do anything you don't want to see in the cover of the Washington Post. And I would say, do your own writing and revising and everything. You can use AI also for research. AI is great for research, but check everything. I think a recent report came out that when you Google anything and now the AI prompt comes up immediately, don't quote me on this, but I think it was 23% of what comes up is actually just wrong. If you're writing nonfiction, if you're writing a memoir, if you're writing, again, any kinds of things like that, make sure you have everything correctly sourced and don't just rely on AI. And AI can make you lazy. So I would say keep your craft sharp and do not rely too much on AI in terms of the creativity of what you do.
You're so right with that. I mean, it does. There's a tendency to rely on AI to help you with this. I love using it for looking at the subject from a completely different angle. And I think AI, I've found that it's been amazing that way, is to take something that is
Wonderful
totally,
conversations.
unrelated to the subject matter. Obviously, mine is book marketing and publishing, looking at it could be golf or it could be healthcare. It could be something completely outside of the subject matter. And just AI is able to give you a different perspective just like that. And I was like, whoa, I'd never thought of that.
I agree.
I love it for that. This is a great time, Alyssa, for you to tell our listeners more about you, how you work, and how they can get hold of you.
Thank you. I, like many of you, am a solopreneur. I've had my law office for well over 20 years. I love to work with small businesses, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, as you said in the introduction, and authors. I love to help you tell your stories. I love to help you get them out there with protection. I also help, especially with nonfiction. I do a lot of pre-publication reviews, which is important for authors that help cover the torts. So defamation, right of publicity, right of privacy, obscenity, anything like that, in addition to potential copyright infringement and stuff that you often need if you want to get your media liability insurance and a publishing agreement. So part of what I love about my job is that I get paid to read books sometimes, and that brings me great joy.
That's wonderful. What's coming to mind as you said that too was on the inside page of the title page, you've got that copyright. Talk to us a little bit about the significance of that, and is it really copyright?
I love that you asked that first part of the question. I'm not sure I understand the second part of the question. What do you mean by, is it really copyright?
There's a standard that says this is copyright, the title, and it tells you, I don't know the wording offhand, but the fact is you do put that in the beginning. Now, the book may or may not have gone through the copyright process, but yet I believe that a lot of people put that in.
You're talking about notice versus registration. Now I understand. Okay. So I want to come back just to say I have been a copyright nerd my whole life. In kindergarten, I would put the C in the circle and I would write copyright, the date, my name, and all rights deserved. It's really all rights reserved. But as a 5-year-old, I didn't know that.
Love that.
And so when you create something, and if you want to register it with the U.S. Copyright Office, which is easy, user-friendly process, and also very inexpensive. It's like $45 to $65 a registration versus dealing with the Patent and Trademark Office and stuff. You have the benefit of several things. You could just put the notice on, which is fine. It's notice to the world, and it's not required to have copyright protection. But if you don't have a copyright registration, here's what you can't do. You cannot sue in federal court under the Constitution, which is where the Copyright Act lives. You cannot get attorney's fees if you win. You cannot get statutory damages. And that is a very important thing. So what you would end up suing is under like a state common law right. you could get $10 in damages, which means that the other side would have to show how much money they made off your work, versus $150,000, which is set by statute. You can't file for copyright infringement unless you have a registration. So it's really important, and it's really inexpensive and easy to do. So again, if it's an original work in a tangible medium, register it. It's kind of like a no-brainer. It's as part of your insurance policy.
Super.
And then put the notice on, which is not required, but it is a notice to the world that this is yours. So it's another thing to have to say, oh, you didn't think you knew it was mine, but look at what's on the first page. You knew.
Yes. As you know, we always have our guests leave our listeners with a golden nugget. You've shared so much great information, Alyssa, but leave us with a nice golden nugget. What would that be?
Love that. Just do what you do best and know when to call the marketer, the lawyer, your insurance person to help you with everything else around the business. But if what you do is really the writing and the expression and getting these stories out and telling whatever it is that you want to tell, just keep doing that. Everything else kind of becomes noise. And if you have the correct team of advisors around you to help you manage that noise, you can really focus on what makes you shine.
Beautiful. Yes. Focus on what makes you shine. Those are beautiful words. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. Listeners, you're going to have to listen to this a few times because it was an incredible amount of not only good, but brilliant information that authors need to know. So listen to this several times again to get all those beautiful nuggets that Alyssa was able to share with us. And if your book isn't selling the way you wanted or expected to, let's you and I jump on a quick call together to brainstorm ways to ramp up those sales, because you've invested a whole lot of time, money, and energy, and it's time you got the return you were hoping for. So go to bookmarketingbrainstorm.com to schedule your free call. And in the meantime, I hope this powerful interview sparks some ideas you can use to sell more books. Until next week, here's wishing you much book and author marketing success.